Hello, everyone. It's Micah, and I think where Amir's head is where the box is that shows the name of this YouTube channel, and it's time for episode 3 of Work in Progress, and I'm either displaying my cat's head or a box. I'm in a particularly good mood today because I managed to survive and thrive with a very busy day and still get in some of my enrichment activities that I'm going to report back to you, which is the whole purpose of this video. For day 3, here's what's happening. Last night, after I recorded the last night's video, I took a shallow dive into literature. And for right now, I'm designating each night of the week as a time for me to explore one subject matter area. And next on the list was literature. And so I sampled some YouTube videos and did some rabbit holing into different surveys of literature and getting some general ideas about what I want to do. There's something on YouTube called Crash Course, and that has some fairly short videos and some very short, snappy analyses of different literary works. But it's I can tell from the length of the videos and the length of the courses that it's almost like skipping rocks across the top of a pond type of exploration of literature. So I don't know if I want to be that shallow with it, but I might just binge watch some of those videos in the future. But I did at least watch one video out of that series. I saw a YouTube video of someone, and I can't remember his name. I need to take better notes. But part of what I'm trying to do here is not get bogged down in taking notes and keeping myself from trying not to become stagnant. And by stopping and thinking I need to take these copious notes about everything that I'm doing, and gathering all my notes to do these videos, that just sort of leads to time and more time, and before you know it, I don't have time to do the things I've said I was going to do. So I'm trying to get a good balance there. But at any rate, sorry for not giving credit to it was actually 2 YouTube videos last night and I'm trying to remember the girl's name too. There was a fairly young girl who I think is either a graduate student or a recent graduate in literature who did a very helpful video of like 10 starter books for people who want to get into literature. I flatter myself to think I'm a little further along than that because we read so much literature in high school, and I have over the years dabbled in reading classic works, but I really want to go full steam ahead into it now. So I have some good ideas, nothing really amazing or groundbreaking to report back, but I'm going to roll up my sleeves and do some deep dives, maybe do some online courses. I have a subscription to the Great Courses Plus. Unfortunately, there wasn't anything in the available catalog there that really spoke to me in terms of being broad enough and literature based enough for me to get involved in that. But I'll be reporting back, and I definitely have some good leads and some lists to work from for literature. And also I do have a little bit of comfort in the fact that what I'm doing during the mornings, which leads me to what I was able to do this morning, my mornings are being devoted to listening to audiobooks of classic and semi-classic works of literature, thanks to an Audible series which has hundreds and hundreds. I said thousands yesterday, I think, but it's more like hundreds, like 1,600 or so audiobooks that they've recorded or at least gathered and put into this podcast format over the past couple of years. And I'm working my way one by one through that list and just really trusting their judgment to curate what it is I listen to. And because they're free, I can't, beggars can't be choosers. So I'm getting a bunch of free audiobooks. So I'm just taking what they have there. And again, rather than getting lost in this list of 1,600 episodes and trying to, decide, wring my hands over which one I want to listen to, I'm just going sequentially through them at this time. I finished up The Maid of Maiden Lane yesterday, and today, improbably, I started the autobiography of Benjamin Franklin, which I want to say I read when I was in middle school. Many of you may remember those library reading contests where you would read tons and tons of books over the summer and get vouchers for free pizza. I remember doing that in middle school, and I think the autobiography of Benjamin Franklin was one of the books I read at that time. But of course, that's been a very long time ago. So it was good to get started listening to that today. One thing I discovered is that my earbuds are not very good, and or the podcast that I'm listening to doesn't have a really high audio quality because the traffic from the commute was frequently overpowering the audiobook, so I had to stop a lot this morning when I was listening. But I still managed to get through somewhere between an hour and 2 hours of the autobiography. And it's no secret that Benjamin Franklin led a fascinating life, and any little thing that I glean from that is going to be just great for me. And there was an extensive introduction to the autobiography, which was read in full as part of the audiobook. As a matter of fact, my critique of the audiobook is that for some reason they think that a person listening to an audiobook wants to have all the footnotes read off to them in sequence. It's very sort of jarring and disjointed. And then the narrator's changes from a male to a female narrative after chapter 3. So I think a part of and one thing I've noticed, and at first I thought it was just me, not like losing my mind or something, but this has happened in a couple of these audiobooks, these last two as a matter of fact. Sometimes some text gets skipped, and I don't know if they recorded these off of an LP or something. I don't know. Like, I can't imagine they're that old that these were recorded on some ancient media type where like the needle skipped and you missed like 10 seconds. But there's definitely whole chunks of text that are missing, which is a little bit unnerving. But, I still followed the general trajectory of what's going on. And of course, I'm losing. The thing about an audiobook is that you lose your place sometimes, especially if you're multitasking and you're doing other things. And even when you try to focus, sometimes your mind wanders, or you might even drop off for 10 or 15 seconds or longer. So regardless, an audiobook just keeps going whether you're paying attention or not, which is a little different than when you're reading a book, and when you stop on a page, you're not going to generally keep turning pages when you've stopped reading. But that sort of comports with my forge ahead mentality on this, because it's not like I'm going to remember every word that I read or every word that is read to me in these audiobooks. So it's really more about the volume of it, and it's not that I don't want to be careful. It's just that I don't want to get bogged down, which has been my Achilles heel in the past. So nothing really insightful to report about the autobiography. I'm still just getting into the meat of it, and it was good to remember exactly what sort of humble beginnings Benjamin Franklin came from, and that it's funny to hear about him getting into trouble when he was a young man. And I was struggling to know which part of life that was, because I guess he was an adolescent when he first started getting into trouble for being a little bit too rambunctious and presumptuous with his activities. And at any rate, it's well documented what an extraordinary life this man led, and at the very least, I'm going to come away with a good deal of inspiration from the book. So we're going to keep at it and hopefully get a little further into it over the next couple of days. It's a relatively quick audiobook at about 7 hours, so I expect to be finished within a couple of days. So I'm just going to keep moving forward there. Now, as for my musical selection, I feel particularly energized because I just finished listening to the third of 3 albums today from Ciara. And yesterday I was a little bit negative in my assessment of her first two albums. And I'm happy to report that after listening to 3 more albums from her catalog, which would include Fantasy Ride from 2009, Basic Instinct from 2010, and the eponymous Ciara album in 2013, I'm much more encouraged and feel much more sure-footed in my fandom, my fanhood, my fandemonium, whatever you want to call it, for Ciara, and I definitely have genuine enthusiasm again. So to recap, album number 1, obviously she's still getting her footing as an artist, but she's got some big name producers with great ideas, and she's really selling her material really well. So the first album was, of course, was an across the board smash without any qualifications. The Evolution was not a slouch of an album by any means, but I think that Ciara's and or her producers and handlers took her too seriously, or tried to present her too seriously as an artist with a capital A. And so it just fell a little flat when she was attempting to be profound, because that's not what she excels at. She excels at just doing what she does. And that, as condescending as that might sound, artists have to kind of pick their lane. And Ciara, trying to have a lot of gravitas in her work, just really isn't who she is as an artist. When she becomes unself-conscious about what she's trying to do, that's when her music actually becomes really meaningful and profound. And that's what I found for these next 3 albums. Fantasy Ride appears to be a really big budget. They threw everything they had into that. Ciara did, her producers did. It seems like the studios probably put a lot of money into the album. But it's a really, really great effort. I'm going back through the track listing, and it's an exciting album and very diverse, very eclectic, but still cohesive. Trying to see. I already knew I loved Love, Sex, Magic. That's one of my favorite songs of hers. I was really impressed with High Price because I didn't know that song. It's been strictly an album track, and just another, like, she and Ludacris should just continue just doing entire albums together instead of these one-off singles and songs on the album. They're just a very potent combination. Turntables was great. The interesting thing is that Ciara's dance tracks are so high-powered and high energy. It's almost like she exists in her own universe of ebullient, high-energy dance songs. And for some reason, with the exception of a couple of tracks like Get Up, she can't seem to turn those into huge charting hits. She consistently gets not pigeonholed, but she gets saddled with slower songs being the bigger successes off her album. And off of Fantasy Ride, I'm pretty sure that Never Ever, the song with Young Jeezy, was the biggest hit from the album, or the one that had the most staying power. But these other songs on here are all just really, really strong as well. And what else on here? And the collaborations on here with The Dream are ridiculous. I just love The Dream, and I love his production style. I especially love it when he does that hypnotic, repetitive, insistent R&B. He's not afraid to really go there. And if you have to repeat something and then repeat something and then repeat something, and he doesn't mind doing it like 8 times in a row. He doesn't feel in any way self-conscious about that, because he understands the power of that hypnotic, even-keeled, like with no variation, type of chanting cadence in a song. He knows how powerful that is. I mean, he, after all, is the architect of Umbrella, Ella for Rihanna, and he did that in his own work as well. And he also translates that here to Ciara. And he also has her experimenting with different ways of singing, which I can't remember what the name of the song was. For one of these songs, she's singing in this really high, tense, insistent register, which in one way is not a great idea, because Ciara is the quality in her voice is that it's very soothing and bright. So turning it into an almost shrill instrument seems counterintuitive, but there's an urgency there that really kind of works with that song. So yeah, I mean, I could go on and on. Fantasy Ride, I think, is my favorite album of hers. And then with Basic Instinct, it seems like they really scaled down the budget. It's a lot more minimalist, but it's also very lean and danceable. And again, the biggest hit off of there was Ride, which was it was a mid-tempo. It's not a ballad by any means, but it's a mid-tempo featuring Ludacris, of course. And I was surprised at how winning the entire album was, when really that one song, Ride, was the only real hit off of the record. But I loved everything on that album. And then surprised again that the Ciara album, which again only had one big hit, and again it was a slower song, Body Party. I was surprised how successful the EDM flavored tracks were. The only real I just got finished listening to this, so I'm still processing it, but I was just surprised over and over again at how catchy and danceable and interesting, sonically interesting, all of the tracks were. I just really, really love it. I'm all the way bought back into the Ciara phenomenon. The only track that fell flat for me was the track featuring Future. And the only reason that fell flat was because Future was warbling, in his voice up against Ciara's. It just makes you appreciate her voice that much more. Some people, dismiss Ciara as a vocalist because she's not Beyonce, or she's not Whitney Houston. She's not one of those big, huge powerhouse vocalists. But what she does really, really well. She rides the beat really well, and she has this melodic, bright voice, and she makes it seem effortless, which is how sometimes you when you make things seem effortless, you sometimes get underrated, and I think that's really who she is as a vocalist. Last note, because I still have more of her records, I hope maybe I'll finish up tomorrow. How many more albums does she have? There was Jackie, and then Beauty Marks, and then Cece. I've already heard Beauty Marks. I've actually listened to that when it came out in 2019, because Thinking About You is an insane song. I thought it should have been the biggest hit of the year. So I bought all the way in on that, but was somewhat disappointed with that album. Let's see if a re-listen to that brings out anything else. I did not actually hear the CC album that came out last year. And Jackie, I remember, was a big disappointment. I felt like she tried to go a different direction. Maybe it was I think that album was a little less catchy. I'm trying to see what is on that album. Again, I bet is the slower track that basically took over on the album. I know Dance Like We're Making Love is a great song. Anyway, so I've got 3 more albums to listen to, so maybe one more day before I get through her catalog. And to me, I think that Ciara really, really tries to be that A+ student in the studio, and with her records, she tries so hard, and not in a way which seems painful or cringy. She's really putting her heart into her work, and I think it's easy to see that when you listen to these albums and how hard they go. If I were her, I would be so upset, because you can almost close your eyes and pick a song off of the 3 albums I listened to today, and any of those songs, in my mind, could have been number 1 pop and or dance and or R&B hits. They're all that strong and that catchy and that well produced, and she does an immaculate job with her delivery on each of those songs. I really am talking about just about any song on any of those albums. I think Ciara, in the back of her mind, she has that lovely winning smile, and her life is wonderful. She has a wonderful marriage and wonderful children, and she seems to be a great mother, and she's still, she's still plugging away at her music career. But in the back of her mind, I have to imagine that she's like, damn it, my music is so good, and it's like nobody pays attention to it. After the success of her first album, I think she approaches each album as if she's on the verge of recapturing that success, and she does what she needs to do to get there. It's just, there's all sorts of things, all sorts of variables in the music industry that keep that from happening. And if you listen to any of these records, you will definitely see how slept on she is. Like, just really, really, really strong. Like I said, it's strong pop music, it's strong dance music, it's strong R&B music. Any of those genres, this is like tip top, very well done, best in class type of work. I think my and last thing before I sign off, because I'm again running late tonight, and I can't see how the camera is positioned. So sorry if I'm off center. Last thing before I sign off is I don't know. I lost my train of thought. Something about Ciara. So I'll probably have more to say about her tomorrow. Anyway, more about Benjamin Franklin. What other YouTube video are you going to watch where you get someone talking about Benjamin Franklin and Ciara and a cat just walking across the frame? I mean, this has it all. You need not go anywhere else for your entertainment needs. At the same time, this isn't even for entertainment. This is for me. So if you found this interesting, please leave a comment. If you didn't, don't leave a comment, because I didn't mean for it to be interesting in the first place. So I don't care. And I feel that makes me feel good to say that. So I guess that's my parting message for tonight. I don't care. And I'll report back tomorrow and let you know how much more I don't care by then. And until then, signing off.